And you know who's not going to be paying taxes? Those empty fields. Yeah, they're not going to pay no taxes. Crop rot don't pay no taxes. Hey, shout out to all of our subscribers and members here on the channel. This is Street Politics, and I am Reese Waters. Y'all have seen the videos.
Right now with this freeze, vulnerable populations could be directly impacted. And so my question to you, just to follow up with you, would you support getting rid of school lunch for vulnerable kids and breakfast and Head Start, for example, and getting rid of childhood cancer research? Do you support that, and what do you say to your constituents? I want to follow up on that question too, because I didn't hear an answer.
Do you understand that there are people like me who cannot work? Do you understand there are people like me who have kids who cannot eat? Do you understand there are people like me who go hungry the last week of the month just so my kids can't eat? Because SNAP benefits is all we fucking get.
President Trump's promise of mass deportations have sent fears to the Central Valley, where migrant farm workers aren't showing up to work. The California Farm Bureau says the industry's taken a hit after immigration agents conducted several operations in Kern County last week. And workers not showing up to work may lead to higher food prices. Here's why.
South Florida is in the middle of a construction boom. Massive buildings like the Paramount Miami World Center are being built on the backs of thousands of construction workers, many from outside the U.S.
The overall industry has a percentage of illegal immigrants that work in construction, and that's where we're going to run into an issue.
Dan Kotze, the CEO of Royal Palm Companies, the developer behind the Paramount, says finding skilled workers for the job is already tough amid a national construction worker shortage of roughly 300,000.
We will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came.
It's a pretty big job site. Look how empty it is. Not very many people here. Empty.
Last week, we reported on an operation involving immigration agents down in Kern County. Now, the California Farm Bureau says migrant farm workers aren't showing up for work, and that could threaten our upcoming citrus prices.
It's the peak of the citrus harvest season in Kern County right now, but the industry is taking a hit after immigration agents conducted several operations last week targeting undocumented immigrants with criminal records. The California Farm Bureau reports that the action made some ag workers too afraid to show up for work, bringing the area's citrus harvest to a virtual halt. The Monterey County Farm Bureau says it is keeping a close eye on the developments in the Central Valley. Harvest season in the Salinas Valley begins in late April. The Farm Bureau says just the threat of deportations could be enough to deter many of the 55,000 migrant workers the valley needs to operate during harvest season. The Farm Bureau says that could lead to higher food prices.
So I came to the Sierra Car Wash here in Fontana, and it's abandoned. I went to the front desk, and they said that they were closed due to no staff showing up to work. Of course they're not going to show up. They're scared. So it looks like one business is going to close soon. How are they going to show up? So sad.
Miren mi gente, esto está pasando aquí en Florida. Son cientos de acres de cultivo que se echaron a perder. Son demasiados que realmente no puedo caminar todo eso porque es mucho. Y
miles y miles y miles de toneladas. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? Porque este cabrón acaba de firmar la pinche ley esa de Florida. Aquí en Florida ya nadie quiere trabajar. Toda la uva ya echada a perder. Ya no hay inmigrantes aquí. Ahora no sé qué vamos a hacer. Miren. Miren nada más, toda la uva se está pudriendo. Prefieren que pase todo esto a que pase una ley migratoria que todos estemos felices y contentos.
South Dakota dairy farmer Greg Mose supports Donald Trump and his pick of his governor, Kristi Noem, to lead the Department of Homeland Security.
Are you worried if there were a mass roundup of undocumented migrants that you might lose workers? You might not have enough workers.
How are they going to do that? Nobody will be filling the shelves. Nobody will be producing food. Within 2 days, we will not have food. There will not be food anywhere.
2 days?
Yes.
It sounds like you have a lot of faith that they're not going to do what they're saying.
That's pretty much what I'm thinking. So we have to trust in our officials that are put in place.
If only anybody could have foreseen this. If only there was some sort of warning, pre-election.
44% of farm workers in the United States today do not have green cards and are working illegally. More than 50% of the farm workers in New York State are working illegally. United States farms contribute over $1 trillion to the U.S. economy. You want to know the fastest way to a recession and everybody eating canned tuna and Chips Ahoy cookies? Deport all the undocumented immigrants, including half the farm workers in the United States.
If this country ends up deporting all of the undocumented migrant workers who support our agriculture system, the result isn't just going to be that food's going to be more expensive. It's that food's not going to be as available. When farmers can't find people to harvest their crop, oftentimes their crop just doesn't go harvested. It rots in the field. So we've gotten used to having food, abundant food, available food. We're going to have to get used to some limitations if the plans of this administration go forward.
And now look where we at. Farm workers ditch shifts amid ICE raid fears as food prices set to skyrocket. Now, there's lots of different ways that we process the find out phase from Maga. Some are gleeful, some are infuriating. This is on the infuriating side of things because we all gonna have to pay for this. Yeah, it ain't no not my fault discount that I get at the grocery store when we fighting over the last grapefruit. But I tell you this, there should be. Immigrant labor makes up about 73% of the U.S. agriculture labor force in 2021. Scores of immigrant farm workers didn't show up to work today in fear of immigration and customs enforcement raids amid President Trump's crackdown. Around 75% of immigrant farm workers in Bakersfield, California ditched their shifts after Trump ramped up his threats by removing protections against ICE raids in sensitive areas, including schools and workplaces. Now, I actually alluded to this when they were doing the talking about the Brown Roundup, when they were passing that letter around, the fact that they were trying to snitch on people at church, trying to criminalize being a Catholic because they apparently have profiled that a lot of these immigrants are Catholic because that's Christian, and that's what you want to be doing. In between books of the Bible, while you flip down is taking the number down. In this case, now they are reporting people at schools and workplaces. But didn't they tell me that this was because of the criminals, right? This was the criminals, right? Because it was the crime wave, right? That's what y'all say, right? Anytime we talk about immigrants, you want them to be gang. That's where y'all go with it, right? That's where y'all go with it. But now we raiding schools and workplaces. Got it. Some schools have begun issuing materials to staff in preparation for a potential raid as immigrant-dominated fields such as agriculture are noticing a trend that could threaten the U.S. food supply. Advocacy group America's Voice believes that U.S. rural and agricultural regions will likely be the hardest hit by Trump's immigration policies, which threaten mass detention and deportation of millions. One more time, U.S. rural and agricultural regions will likely be the hardest hit. Let's see, these rural and agricultural regions. Those seem to be his people. Okay. Well, they're going to take that well. U.S. Customs and Border Protection claims that agents are only targeting alleged drug and human traffickers at schools through reports suggests a different reality on the ground. Is that what they're learning at schools? So they decide, you know what? I really need to figure out some better logistics about my distribution. You know what I mean? And I know they got a good class. Down at the high school, they got a good class they teaching the 11th graders. So if I just go in, sit in the back, just audit the class, then I feel like that can really get my organization off the ground. Border Patrol agents in unmarked vehicles have allegedly been carrying out racially profiled raids in California's agricultural center after stalking immigrants outside stores, Cal Matters reports. That is fascinating. They've been carrying out racially profiled raids after stalking immigrants outside stores. Now, because you told me it was about the drug and the trafficking and all of that. Was that happening in these parking lots? Is that they do from Marshalls? They doing all that? They doing all that from Marshalls? That is wild. Estimates suggest that between 400,000 and 800,000 people are farm workers in California, which is responsible for about 13% of the country's agricultural production value that is worth more than $25 billion. Reports suggest law enforcement began cracking down on immigrant farm workers in the Bakersfield area earlier in the month after Trump's election win was certified by Congress. In one of multiple reported incidents, law enforcement allegedly swooped through a farm at Bakersfield the day after the election results were certified. Well, how about that? That is literally the day after the election was certified, you just went and swooped in. That's disrespectful. Like I thought that the Biden-Harris administration was chill before. I didn't realize they were just letting people conduct raids during the last couple of months of your presidency. That's like having to share your desk with your replacement for your whole last week on the job. But then again, I guess if that person is doing the work, but I'm still getting paid for it, I would actually be fine with that, actually. Sarah Fuentes, store manager of a local gas station that the workers frequent, told Cal Matters that agents in civilian clothing and unmarked Suburbans detained people outside of her store before their shifts. They didn't stop people with FedEx uniforms. They were stopping people who looked like they worked in the fields. Interesting. So it's not even so much that you were profiling. Your profile was specific to people that worked in the fields. Well, surely, if you are specifically attacking the agricultural sector, you will have some kind of recourse when the fields are abandoned. But I look at those fields and I don't see the recourse. I don't see the recourse. You know what I also don't see is the American citizens lining up to fill those spots. I looked at all those photos. I haven't seen the folks whose jobs were taken popping up. They must didn't get the message. They must didn't get the message. That's why we got to amplify. We got to amplify this video and get the message out so they know that jobs might be available, and then we'll see when they don't show up. The following day, she says, none of the regular farm workers came to the shop for breakfast. Eyewitnesses captured videos of several Border Patrol agents and officers, some uniformed and some not, standing outside of the store, intimidating immigrants. Ever since farm workers have been petering out in fear of getting detained or deported by immigration agents, the USDA estimated that between 2020 and 2022, about 32% of crop farm workers were U.S. born, 7% were immigrants who would obtain citizenship, 19% were authorized immigrants, mostly permanent residents or green card holders, and the remaining 42% were unauthorized to work. The majority of those workers have Latino backgrounds. Given that the majority of farm workers are immigrants, experts warn that the price of food could skyrocket under Trump's immigration policy. The AV report noted how anti-immigrant crackdowns in the past decade have led to devastating impacts for farms such as crop rot across several states, including Alabama, Florida, and Georgia. And quite frankly, it couldn't have happened to three nicer states. No, it couldn't have happened to three nicer states. The unmarked cars, the racial profiling, the abusive harassment, and wide dragnets are likely just the tip of the spear of the incoming administration, and the signs are unmistakable. There are enemy invaders within threatening everything real Americans hold dear, and the federal government will be interested in critical oversight and how local officials deal with the enemy. Yes, the enemy within. I have never known an enemy to pick my fruit. They must be playing the long game. Yeah, they must be playing the long game. They get me addicted to that fruit, and then now I got to pay them higher wages. But it's been a long time, and they haven't asked for nothing more. Unfortunately, Bakersfield is likely the prelude for what we can expect in the coming weeks and months, and worse when unconfirmed Trump appointees Stephen Miller and border czar Tom Homan are in charge of immigration policy. Yeah. Stephen Miller, that is America is for Americans, Stephen Miller.
The criminal migrants are gone. The gangs are gone. America is for Americans and Americans only.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be sensible. It warns the tone and culture they set will be just as important as the policies they begin to implement. As individual law enforcement and vigilantes feel empowered to take drastic action with little concern for consequence or oversight, our situation could get out of hand quickly, and mass family separations will likely begin again. And as we saw, the impacts will be felt by families, communities, businesses, and frankly, all of us. Now, this is the point that I raised earlier, and why this is just so infuriating, because this will be felt by all of us, even those that warned that this was a possibility. Now, exactly how Trump is going to carry this is going to be fascinating, because one thing that we know, because we've seen it happen already when it comes to the H-1Bs, is that when it comes to messing with the money, Trump is going to ride with the money. He has done that since the moment he's gotten there. This is one of the few instances where he appears to be bending to a cultural issue, allowing the money to be messed with. Now, exactly how far is he willing to go is the question, because once these consequences and repercussions start to hit, they gonna hit the billionaires, but they also gonna hit Maga. So remember y'all told me y'all were voting for Trump because of the economy, right? Was it the economy?
Consumers are fed up with higher prices.
Tell me why it was $17 for 3 fillet of fishes.
Huh? Who told y'all was that good to be charging that much for y'all food?
In April, groceries ticked up slightly compared to a year ago, but fast food prices soared 4.8%.
How does that affect your budget? When you're paying more for fast food, what does that do? It makes it harder to live, but then you have to save. So you're like, I can't have my fast food if I save.
In fact, over the last 10 years, analysis from Finance Buzz found a McDonald's quarter pounder with cheese meal has more than doubled. Taco Bell's beefy 5-layer burrito spiked almost 200%, and a Chipotle barbacoa burrito is 87% more expensive. Popeyes and Burger King menu items also jumped. As a result, KFC reported slower foot traffic, and McDonald's missed profit expectations for the first time in 2 years. This is lower income earners are spending less on fast food.
Hey, Donald Trump, egg prices are up 37%. Don't trust me, trust the Fox News channel. They say 37%. I just went to my local store. Egg prices are up to $4 a dozen eggs now. That was moments ago. I'm not impressed. So here's the thing I'm a little confused about. I was told that within 24 hours of Donald Trump being president, prices were going to go down. Inflation would be beat. Except prices just went up 37%. $4 for eggs, right? Everyone was going to come along. Trump promised us he was going to do magic. He was magically going to wave his hands and egg prices were going to go down, but they went up. All the prices were going to go down. He said they were going to go down. He said they were going to go down immediately. And then, a little bit before the election, before he was sworn in, after the election, he said, maybe not. It's going to be really hard, he said. It's going to be hard. And now my egg prices have gone up. Yeah. Here's the problem. Don't freaking lie to me to get my vote. That's my problem. Liar.
They want $7.99 for this bag of mandarin oranges. They ain't even cuties. What the hell is a damn poppy? A damn poppy? They done lost their damn mind. $7.99 for some poppies? The damn cuties ain't about $5.99. Hell to the no. Whoever become president tonight, get the food price shit together. That's what you need to be focused on.
The Walmart CEO has come out and said he expects food prices to remain high in 2025 and for some to even go up higher. He says what's driving this is eggs and dairy. And yeah, I believe that right now because we have the bird flu epidemic going on right now that's affecting eggs and dairy products. The state of California has declared a state of emergency due to this outbreak. And I don't know about where you're at, but the price of eggs has gone from about $4, $5 up to $8 or higher. And this price increase has happened in just the last month. So if you were betting on Trump getting in and fulfilling his promise of bringing inflation down, bringing the price of groceries down, that was like one of his main promises.
We will end inflation and make America affordable again. We're going to get the prices down. We have to get them down. It's too much. Groceries, cars, everything. We're going to get the prices down. We'll cut your taxes, end inflation. Slash your prices. Prices will come down. You just watch. They'll come down and they'll come down fast.
Even he is admitting that now, that he can't bring the prices down.
Can you guarantee American families won't pay more?
I can't guarantee anything. I can't guarantee tomorrow.
In his Time magazine interview, he said, well, once the prices get high, it's kind of hard to bring them down. So what's he going to do? And I just want to remind everyone, the CEO of Walmart, Doug McMillon, he brought home about nearly a $27 million pay package in 2023.
We're in the middle of our citrus harvesting, said Casey Creamer, president of the industry group California Citrus Mutual. This sent shockwaves through the entire community. People aren't going to work and kids aren't going to school. Yesterday, about 25% of the workforce didn't show up. Today, 75% didn't show up. Losing the bulk of America's agricultural workforce overnight is a recipe for absolute economic devastation. Absolute economic devastation, according to Richard Gerhardt, an associate professor of economics at Cal State Bakersfield, who spoke with the nonprofit news outlet. You were talking about a recession-level event if this is the new long-term norm, Gerhardt said, arguing that the end result of Trump's policies will be felt in the grocery store checkout lines across America. But just 2 days into the administration, it appears that anti-immigration efforts will be a relative free-for-all. On Tuesday, the Department of Homeland Security announced it would roll back an Obama-era directive, suddenly allowing the immigration agency to detain people in sensitive areas such as hospitals, places of worship, courtrooms, funerals, and weddings. And while we're talking about free-for-all, how about these reports coming out of Arizona that apparently this has engulfed the indigenous community as well?
Multiple reports from Phoenix, Arizona indicate that members of tribal nations are being harassed by immigration officers. And at least one member of the Navajo Nation was detained and released by ICE. This is a devastating result of racial profiling and a stark reminder of settler colonial violence. To my indigenous brothers and sisters out there, please stay safe and take care.
Now that probably warrants its own treatment at some point soon. I just wonder if anybody is advocating for these people or making these points in the halls of Congress.
As one of the few people sitting on the dais who actually practice criminal law in the state of Texas, as well as licensed in Arkansas and practice there, as well as federal courts, one of the things that you said earlier, Mr. Beer, really stuck with me, is that there are already laws on the books as it relates to those violent criminals. And I know this because even though I hail from the great city of Dallas, I can tell you that when someone would come in and they were being held in custody for, say, a crime, they also had an ICE hold, okay? And that was for those that had maybe been deported before and had re-entered illegally and things like that. And so no matter what type of city you're in, I do want to be clear, federal law already, no matter if it's under the Biden administration or if it's under a Republican administration, we all agree that we want to be safe. And I think that's the first premise that we're losing, because there isn't something that is tatted on my head that says that I'm a Democrat and therefore you illegal bad person, don't come for me, go for the ones that have the R's on their forehead. Now let me be clear about this as well, because we've talked about crime and we've talked about fentanyl specifically, and this is also something that I have dealt with, unlike some of my other colleagues. And listen, I'm gonna be honest, because I actually wanna fix problems. And I actually have a really good senator in Texas, and I'm sure y'all can guess which one is the good one.
Yeah, I got an idea.
Ted Cruz wants you to forget this ever happened. Ted stated that when he hopped on a flight to Cancun during a Texas snowstorm, he thought he was helping, as the engines would help heat and melt the snow.
But let me tell you, if we care about fentanyl, I have multiple bills for that. I started on the state level before everybody started talking about it, and I have federal bills that my senior senator has signed on to. So I welcome my colleagues, because I actually want to make sure that my communities are safe. But as we start to talk about crime and statistics, Mr. Beer, I want to play a little game with you. It's called rhetoric versus reality. And so I want to ask you, my first question, is this rhetoric or reality? Immigrants commit more crimes than US citizens.
On a per capita basis?
Rhetoric or reality?
Oh, it is rhetoric.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask for unanimous consent.
I know that tone. That's the tone I get with my daughter. When I ask her a question, she try and change the subject. What did I tell you this morning? What did I tell you this morning?
To enter into the record this article, which states that undocumented immigrant offending rate lower than US-born citizen rate, and this is from nij.ojp.gov.
Without objection.
Thank you so much. The next one, immigrants are just living off the federal government and contribute nothing.
That would be rhetoric.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Chair, I would ask unanimous consent to enter study that says undocumented immigrants pay almost $100 billion in taxes. This is from the Alabama Reflector.
Without objection.
Thank you so much.
And you know who's not gonna be paying taxes? Those empty fields. Yeah, they're not gonna pay no taxes. Crop rot don't pay no taxes.
My final rhetoric or reality question is, immigrants only enter at the southern border.
Rhetoric.
Okay, right, because they enter all kinds of ways. I just wanted to make sure that I put that out there. In fact, I have a few more questions because I still got a little bit of time, which I usually run out of time. We have talked again about crime, and there's been this overemphasis on it. And honestly, I can tell you that I don't want anyone to be killed, whether it's here or anywhere else. There is nothing about me as the child of a preacher that makes me say that I want people to die, okay? So I feel as if my colleagues from across the aisle have decided that they are going to make immigrants the boogeyman. It's insanity to me, but they also are showing compassion for victims, which they should, but they have no compassion for people that are contributing to making us great in this country. So interestingly enough, I'm curious to know, Mr. Beer, if you know if immigrants contributed to these particular crimes. There was a mass shooting in Buffalo, New York that killed a number of African Americans as they were trying to shop for groceries. Was the defendant an immigrant in that case? Do you know?
No, he was a US-born citizen.
Thank you so much. Charleston, South Carolina, there were black churchgoers trying to praise the Lord. They were killed. Was that an immigrant that perpetrated that or not?
No, that was a US-born citizen.
Thank you so much. Now, coming home to Texas, there was an El Paso shooting. Do you know if that was an immigrant or not?
No, they were targeting immigrants in that case.
In fact, each of these cases, it was white supremacists. And so the last unanimous consent that I'd asked for is this article that states that white supremacists behind over 80% of extremism-related U.S. murders in 2022.
Without objection.
Thank you so much.
Jasmine Crockett coming through as always. As much as we have that clear double standard and incongruity between what they're contributing and what is claimed they're bringing into the country, which is nothing but crime, we have the minimization of all things white supremacy, all things homegrown when it comes to crime. How about this? Economist Ron Abramitsky found that since the 1960s, immigrants are 60% less likely to be incarcerated than U.S.-born people. Researchers at the Cato Institute, a libertarian think tank, looked into Texas in 2019 and found that undocumented immigrants were 37.1% less likely to be convicted of a crime. Beyond incarceration rates, research also shows there's no correlation between undocumented people and a rise in crime. Investigations by the New York Times and the Marshall Project found that between 2007 and 2016, there was no link between undocumented immigrants and a rise in violent or property crime in those communities. But of course, none of that information is going to help whiten the fabric of the country now, is it? That is not anything that you could sell to people and make them feel like they're getting something without actually giving them anything. And that is how we find ourselves here. I tell you this, if they're not gonna go get that fruit, I'll go get it because I'm gonna need it. I ain't gonna be paying these high prices. I might have to get me a truck and start a stand. Yeah, off East Capitol Street. Just gonna call it Soul Brother Citrus. Hey, I want to thank you guys so much for supporting the channel as we approach a new administration and the changing winds of our media landscape. I want to invite you to join my channel. I think it's very important to preserve a space and a platform where I can communicate clearly and honestly, as all of our creators are hoping to maintain. Unfortunately, it looks like that ground may be evaporating right underneath our feet. So I wanted to let you know I'm going to continue to post on my channel, but I'll also be posting more in the membership section as well, so we can have clear and honest conversations. You can find the button to join right there on my page. There's also a link in the description box to all of my videos. I also want to invite you to join my mindfulness and meditation channel. That's my second channel. It is Way of Waters, because we gonna need it. We gonna need it. I might wear that thing out by the midterms.